Jay, you ready for reading? Summer of the Monkeys. Chapter 10. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and twice as sick as I had been the day before. My whole body screamed for water and my throat was so dry I had to jiggle my Adam's apple 3 or 4 times before I could swallow. I had such a nasty taste in my mouth it reminded me of the time I had eaten some green persimmons.
Where are you?
Right there. When I first opened my eyes, I couldn't remember a thing. For a few seconds, I didn't even know where I was. Everything I looked at was going round and round and round. Then, little by little, the spinning stopped and things started coming back to me. The monkeys, the whiskey still, drinking the sour mash, and the loss of my breeches. The more I thought about everything that had happened to me, the more ashamed I became. I tried covering my face with a pillow, but that didn't blot out a thing. I was lying there feeling sorry for myself and wondering how Rowdy was making out when Papa and Daisy came into my room. Papa smiled and said, "How do you feel?" "I'm sick, Papa," I said. "I'm sick enough to die."
His dad?
Yep. Papa laughed and said,
What is that name?
Papa. I don't know what his name is. Papa laughed and said, "Oh, I don't think you'll die. You may think you will, but you won't. In a day or two, you'll be as good as new."
Why did mom make him trouble, and why did dad not want to make him trouble?
Oh, the mom gets him in trouble, but not the dad?
Yeah.
Well, dads can sometimes understand boys. "Papa," I said, "I didn't know that sour mash would make you drunk. I thought that it had to be made into whiskey first." Shaking his head, Papa said, "Oh no, sour mash will make you just as drunk as whiskey does and twice as sick. Once that stuff gets down in your stomach, it just keeps on fermenting and you'll be sick." Up until then, Daisy hadn't opened her mouth. She just stood there looking disgusted and listening to Papa. Turning to leave the room, she said, "Well, I guess I'd better get busy because it looks like I have my work cut out for me." I was so sick that I didn't pay any much attention to what Daisy had said, but I should have known that I was in for another one of her Red Cross go-arounds, and that's all there was to it. I didn't have to worry about Mama paying me a visit because she was really put out with me. This didn't bother me too much because Mama's mad spells never did last very long. My mama was just about like any other boy's mama. She would stay mad at me for a while and then she'd start feeling sorry for me and everything would be all right. It's all right. Papa said, "I can't understand why you drank that sour mash. I know you found stills before and I'm pretty sure you didn't drink any of the mash." "I didn't, Papa," I said. "That was the first time I ever drank anything like that. Everything happened so fast. The first thing I knew, Rowdy and I were both drinking it like water." Papa sat down on my bed and said, "Suppose you start at the beginning and tell me all about it. I'd like to know just what did go on down in those bottoms." I could always talk to Papa much better than I could to Mama. It seemed that he could understand me better. I figured it was because he too had once been a boy. I told Papa everything that had happened, but I was so ashamed about losing my breeches, I didn't look him in the eyes while I was telling it. Papa laughed and said, "To me, it looks like that Jimbo monkey wanted to get you and Rowdy drunk so he could steal your breeches. What do you suppose he did with them?" "I don't know, Papa," I said. "He could be wearing them for all I know. I wouldn't put anything past that monkey." Papa said, "Well, I can see where there's been too much harm done, but I don't believe I'd tie into that sour mash anymore. It might get to be a habit, and that's not good at all." "Papa," I said, "you don't have to worry about me. I won't be drinking any more sour mash or any other kind of whiskey as long as I live. If drinking makes a fellow as sick as I am, I won't ever drink it again. I mean that too." Papa smiled and said, "You know, if a fella can learn something through experience when he's young, he doesn't ever forget it." "I won't ever forget this, Papa," I said, "and if I ever get a hold of that Jimbo monkey, he won't forget it either." Papa laughed and said, "I've always figured that a man can do almost anything if he puts his mind to it and doesn't ever give up." "I won't ever give up," I said. "I'll catch that monkey if I have to chase him clear to Arkansas."
What's Arkansas?
It's another state. Getting up from the bed, Papa looked at his watch and said, "Your mother and I are going to the store today. Is there anything you want me to tell your grandpa?" "Just tell him that I'll be up to see him in a day or two, and that we'll have to figure out some other way to catch those monkeys." Papa smiled and said, "I don't suppose you want me to tell him about how you lost your breeches, do you?" "Oh, I don't care, Papa," I said. "Mama will tell Grandma all about it, and she will tell Grandpa, as long as we keep it in the family. I don't mind so much, but I sure wouldn't want anyone else to know about it." Chuckling to himself, Papa left the room. It wasn't long until I heard our old wagon leave and screech its way up the road. I had just about dozed off when, to my surprise, Daisy came into my room. She was all decked out in that silly-looking Red Cross uniform and was carrying a tray with a large bottle of castor oil and an empty water glass sitting on it. I could see that she had a book tucked under her arm. I thought, oh no, if she gives me a dose of castor oil and then starts reading to me, I will surely die. It was the same old thing that I had gone through 100 times. Smiling all over, Daisy said, "Good morning, and how is my patient this fine morning?" "Oh, for heaven's sake, Daisy," I said, "please, I'm too sick to go through any Red Cross business this time. I don't believe I could stand it. I thought that you went to the store with Mama and Papa. You always do. How come you didn't go this time?" "Oh, I wanted to go," Daisy said. "I wanted to go very much, but J. Berry, a good nurse, never leaves a sick patient." We're recording there, little lady. We're recording our story
What
right
are you
now.
doing? You stuff up
I was gonna
up
get my
there.
brown paper and
You,
Well, you can go ahead.
you
Oh,
put
get
up
it.
there.
who's this for?
Whoever.
I want this.
No, hold on.
You want this, Mom? No thanks.
Oh, I wanted to go, Daisy said. I wanted to go very much, but J. Berry, a good nurse, never leaves a sick patient. "You didn't have to stay here just because of me," I said. "I'm not that sick. I never will be that sick." For all the attention Daisy paid to my protest, I may as well have been talking to a post oak stump. Taking her thermometer and starting to shake it, I just groaned and crawled way down under the covers. Daisy started pulling at the quilt, saying, "J. Berry, you're acting like a little baby. You sit up here now and let me examine you." "Go away!" I shouted. "I'll be all right if you just go away and leave me alone."
That's sister not be nice.
Oh, she's trying to be nice. For a few seconds, there was a complete silence. Then I heard Daisy say, "Well, it says in my nursing book that when a patient gets unruly, a nurse is supposed to be stern." "Kate, come sit back down. Now, leave the fan on.
I'm cool. I'm hot. Cool.
Cold.
Well, then, go ahead and sit back down. And who's going to scratch my head? No one scratched my head yet.
Yeah.
Reaching down under the covers, Daisy grabbed a hand. Listen to this. Reaching down under the covers, Daisy grabbed a handful of my hair. I was squalling like a scared chicken as I was pulled to the head of my bed and propped to a sitting position with a pillow. "Now," Daisy said, sticking the thermometer into my mouth, "if you'll just be patient, this will be over in a few minutes." I was too sick to fight anymore. "All right," I mumbled. "If I die, it'll be your fault." Daisy smiled and said, "J. Berry, you won't die. You may think you will, but you won't. In a day or two, you'll be as good as new, I hope." "You're just saying that because you heard Papa say it," I said. "No, I'm not," Daisy said. "I'm saying it because I'm a nurse, and nurses are supposed to cheer up their patients." I knew all too well that once Daisy had gotten into one of her Red Cross nursing spells, it was ridiculous to even think of trying to argue her way out of it. Her out of it. So I just groaned, closed my eyes, and sat there while she looked me over. Counting silently, Daisy took my pulse. Then she looked at my eyeballs, felt... What in the world? Then she looked at my eyeballs, felt of my brow, and tapped around on me with her fingers. She even laid her ear on my chest and listened to my heartbeat. From the expression on her face, it seemed to be in pretty good shape until she took the thermometer from my mouth and looked at it. Frowning and letting out a low whistle, Daisy said, "Boy, J. Berry, you have a fever. Why, it's almost busted this thermometer." This scared me a little. I knew that I was sick, but I didn't think that I was sick enough to bust a thermometer. Daisy said, "Let me see your tongue." By this time, I was getting a little bit on the nervous side. Without any protest, I stuck my tongue out as far as I could. Daisy looked at it, and making a sour face, she said, "Yuck! J. Berry, your tongue is so coated it looks like the inside of Papa's shaving mug." This really shook me up. "Is it that bad?" I asked. "Oh, it's not too bad," Daisy said, "but it's bad enough. I think I know what's causing it." "You do?" I said. "What's causing it?" Daisy said, "Remember what Papa said about your stomach being full of that old sour mash? As long as it's in there, you'll just stay sick, and your tongue will be coated." "Daisy," I said, "I'm sick all over, but it's not my tongue that's sick. What are you going to do now?" "I don't know," Daisy said as she reached over and picked up the book she had brought with her when she came into my room. I saw that it was her nursing book. Daisy wet her thumb on her tongue and started thumbing through the pages. "J. Berry," she said, "I don't know a thing about doctoring a drunk, I've looked all through my nursing book and can't find anything that tells me how, but I know that somewhere in here I've read where it does tell how to keep a patient's tongue from being coated. Daisy, I said, you don't think that I'm drunk, do you? Just because I got drunk once doesn't mean that I'm drunk. That I'm a drunk, does it? I'm not too sure about that, Daisy said, still turning pages and not looking at me.
He's drunk.
Well, right now he is. He has a hangover because
That him?
Jimbo gave
Why?
him all that
Why?
mash.
That him?
Yep. All right, let's go back at it. From what I've heard and read, that's the way... Okay, I'm not too sure about that, Daisy said, still turning pages and now looking at me. From what I've heard and read, that's the way drunkards get started. They have one drink, and then they have to have another one, and another, and another. And pretty soon they're drinking it by the barrel. Daisy, I said very seriously, if I live through this, you won't have to worry about me ever drinking any more mash or whiskey. I promise that. While I'll even cross my heart and hope to die. With a very sad look on her face, Daisy said, I hope not, Jay Barry. I sure would hate for us to grow up and have people see you staggering down the street and say, that's that old drunkard Jay Barry Lee. He's Daisy Lee's brother. I don't believe I could stand that. I just wouldn't put up with it. I'd tell people that I didn't even know you. Oh, Daisy, I cried. I'm so sick now. I'm not an inch from the grave, and you keep talking about all those old bad things. I thought you said that nurses are supposed to cheer up their patients, not bury them. Just then Daisy's face lit up, and she said, ah, here it is. She sat down on the foot of my bed and started reading in silence. Finally, after what seemed like a week or two to me, Daisy sighed, closed her book, and said, Jay Barry, I think what you need is a big dose of castor oil. I always did think that the very thought of castor oil was enough to make a buzzard sick. Castor oil? I said. Why, Daisy, I couldn't take any of that nasty stuff. All you think about is castor oil. If I even mash my finger, the first thing you do is grab that old castor oil bottle. Ah, Jay Barry, Daisy said, taking the stopper from the bottle. Castor oil isn't hard to take. If you just close your eyes and swallow, you won't even taste it. I can taste that darn stuff, I said. I can taste it even before I take it. Holding the bottle about a foot above the glass, Daisy started pouring. The very sight of that slick, slimy-looking stuff gurgling down into the glass was more than my poor old sick stomach could bear. I jumped out of the bed, flew to the window, and threw up all over the place. As I was crawling back into bed, Daisy giggled and said, Jay Barry, I'm a much better nurse than you think I am. I knew that I'd have trouble getting you to take castor oil, so I did the next best thing. I just let you see some of it. I figured if you saw some of it, that would be enough to get you to rid yourself of that old sour mash. It sure worked, didn't it? I bet you're feeling better, aren't you? I guess I am, I said. But if you really want to do something for me, go and bring me a gallon of good, cool water. Daisy giggled and said, ah, Jay Barry, you couldn't drink a gallon of water, could you? You just think I couldn't, I said. I believe that I could drink 10 gallons. Well, Daisy said, if you think that you can drink that much water, there's no use bringing in a glass. I'll just bring the water bucket. That's what she did, and stood there watching while I drank 3 dippers of water. And that's where we're going to stop for tonight.